Hey everyone, so I am back with the fourth part of my cancer journey series of videos. Previously, we were talking about my diagnosis, about my treatment plan, staying positive. We're now 7 months, sorry, not 7 months, 7 treatments through my chemo, and at the stage of my journey where we paused the chemo to go into surgery. So I mentioned briefly my surgeries. I had 3 of them. So when you're on chemotherapy and you need to go into surgery, there's like a 4 to 6 week break that you have to take, and that just allows like time for the chemo to get out of your system so that your body can heal and recover from that, and your blood levels can go back up. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that they check with your blood, so I just say like blood levels, because they need to be at a certain point before you can go into surgery, because surgery, especially the surgeries that I had, or some people that they have, they're very severe, like very traumatic on your body. And so if your blood levels aren't at where they should be, your recovery can be drastically altered. So it's important to make sure. I mean, obviously, you don't have to make sure. The doctors are not going to put you in surgery if you're not prepared, unless it's like life or death. But anyway, so those I was 5 weeks actually before I went into the surgery, because there was a bit of time getting it scheduled and stuff. But yeah, that those 5 weeks being off of chemo was just like, oh my God, they called it a vacation. And I totally understand why, because like I said in my previous video there, by the time I got to my seventh cycle of chemo, it was pretty much just like every day for 2 weeks, feeling like crap. I was spent like an entire week in bed after my after my treatment, just feeling crappy, feel like, just all those side effects I was talking about in that video. So being off of it and allowing the neuropathy that I was going through to kind of go away a few weeks later, and being able to drink like room temperature or colder again. Like in the hospital, I was getting big giant cups of like ice water. Oh my God, it was just like the most refreshing thing, being able to drink it and swallow it without, it feeling like I was swallowing razor blades. But um, but anyway, yeah. So I had 3 surgeries. So as you know, I had a rectal tumor and a liver tumor. So there was the rectal surgery, which they did a lower anterior resection surgery, which is basically, I was lucky. My tumor, not really lucky, but my tumor wasn't right near the opening, like your anus. So it was far enough in that they were able to cut it out without having to permanently close up my anus. So I was able to do the resection. So they basically cut out the sigmoid bend, the loop of my rectum, and then they could bring down the colon and reconnect it. So that's why they call it a resection. You're just resectioning your colon. But anyway, so there was that surgery. And then there was the liver surgery, where they were basically just like shaving off a chunk of my liver to remove that tumor, and then cauterizing the liver to allow it to heal. And then the third one was actually for my ostomy. So they did an ileostomy. So because they did such major surgery in the colon area, in order to allow that to heal, they have to divert all of your waste from your colon. So what I didn't understand before is like, well, if you're doing that and then you reverse the ileostomy, because that is something that's going to happen, like, why are you diverting it? Because the surgery, to keep it from having like your stool passing by and get infected and stuff, when you're just going to have to reverse it, wouldn't it then be passing by a surgery as well? So I'm kind of confusing this for you probably, but anyway, my interesting information that I wanted to get to, the point of this is that like, all the bacteria in your stool that can cause an infection from the surgery is created in your colon. So while that surgery heals, they divert it through your ileostomy, which is your ileos, or however you pronounce it, intestine. So right there's your lower intestines before it goes into your colon. They divert your stool or your waste from there, so it never goes into your colon. So there's never any bacteria in that. So the point of this is that when they reverse that, that is also going to be a surgical site, but it's okay that your waste can pass by that later because that's not in your colon, so there's no bacteria going through. Anyway, so those are the 3 surgeries. So my hospital stay, this is ready to close, was about, I was there for 6 days, which was actually a lot shorter than I was expecting. I thought I'd be in there for at least a week, maybe a week and a half. Well, I guess 6 days is almost a week, but I figured at least like a week and a half. But anyway, went really well, my recovery. So yeah, so I go in for the surgery. I met the surgeons. I had talked to them prior. Like I had appointments like virtual appointments where we could just like sit and chat, but just to like learn about the surgery, what they're going to be doing, and talk about the side effects and the risks and all that. But so yeah, so I went in for the surgery. It was kind of weird because I mean I've never had surgery before, so maybe for a lot of people this wouldn't be so weird. But like I've always been like not like afraid, but like just surgery creeps me out. Like the idea of it being cut open and you being completely unconscious, like it kind of was like freaking me out a little bit. I just tried not to think about it for that 3 weeks leading up to it, because otherwise I'd just be stressing about it, because there are a lot of risks that can happen with a surgery like that, or 3 surgeries like that. But anyway, so when I got there, we spent the night, my mom and we went down, spent the night in Toronto, because my surgery, I had to be there at like 6 in the morning or something. So we got an Airbnb that was actually just down the street from the hospital, or across the street from the hospital. So yeah, so we go in, you get your gown on, everything, and then they take me into the surgery room. And let me tell you, those operating rooms, they're not the way they look on TV. I mean, they are, but they're not. Like TV sets are obviously designed for filming. They need space to move the cameras around and whatever. But yeah, that was my first thought. Of course, I'm thinking about, oh, this isn't what a movie looks like. But anyway, so we go in there, there's like a whole team of people just like in there waiting and ready to go. And so you're sitting there, they put what do they call that in your spine? An epidural. So they put that like in my spine, and I don't remember anything after that. I mean, they weren't administering the anesthesia then, but they put that in for like the pain drugs. But I don't really even remember like laying down, putting the anesthesia in, like counting down. From that moment, maybe I just blocked it out, but anyway, yeah, so you get knocked out and then you wake up and like nothing, and then it's all over. But yeah, my stay in the hospital was pretty good. Like I had amazing care, amazing nurses. There was only a couple of times where, like, for example, like before I had my catheter taken out, after I had my catheter taken out, I was unable to like go pee. Like I was trying, but it wouldn't come out. And they want to make sure that everything is working normally, right? So the one night when I was, the nurse had to come in, and they ended up having to put the catheter back in just so that they could drain my bladder, because it was like full. They did like an ultrasound first to make sure that it was like full. And then they drained it, and then they took the catheter back out. And then they said, if it happens again, just have because this is at nighttime now, have the night nurse just put it back in and just leave it in. And then it happened again. So that was the worst of it, was when I was at nighttime, and I guess the nurse was busy or wasn't around or didn't understand the urgency of it. But like I had to go again, and I couldn't, and I'm trying and I'm trying and I'm trying. And my bladder just keeps getting full and full and full, to the point where it was like agonizing. Like I was in pain, and I'm just like, oh my God, you need to come. and put the catheter back in. It was about half an hour waiting for that to happen. So that's like, I guess, my only like negative experience with the hospital. But anyway, he came back and they did the ultrasound. They checked. Okay, yep, you're like over like almost 1.5 liters. Like we gotta. It's like, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So they put it back in and left it in for another day. After that, it was fine. But but yeah, it was pretty quick healing. I think on day 4, I went in for a shower because, oh my God, I the things you don't realize until you're in the situation, but just laying in a hospital bed, especially with like an ostomy now, with like all of your, and it's really gross and stinky those first like couple of weeks. You don't realize how much you start to smell just laying in a hospital bed. So anyway, yeah, I had a nurse came in and she helped me shower. But then by day 6, when I went home, I showered myself, completely independent, standing up and everything. So my healing went super well, like my scar and everything went really well. Actually, it's kind of fitting. So I'm wearing this tank top today. I just realized the Joker. How did I get these scars? But my scar, so very big scar all the way down to about here. Oops, that was gross. Joys of having an ostomy, if you heard that. So anyway, that's the scar. So they just did, like I said, they did all the surgeries at once. So they just kind of split me wide open, and I can only imagine. When I think about it, it just grosses me out. But I imagine they had all of my guts hanging out in bowls on the side of the table so they could get in there and do all their surgeries. But I mean, and your liver is underneath your ribs, so you kind of have to take that out of your ribs and like do your surgery, then put it back in. But anyway, that just grosses me out thinking about it. But considering all of that, the fact that I went home in 6 days is amazing. And then at home, it was all right too. I met my mom, so I had her here. But I mean, she's been working and stuff too. So, but I've been pretty good, just like here, and I was getting around, moving up and down, like going from the bedroom to the office, sitting in my chair, walking around the house for a little bit, making sure I'm eating. The thing that was the hardest to adjust to was this ostomy. So having this ostomy on, it's kind of gross, and it's swollen and it needs to shrink down. So like those first few days, once I got my staples out, I couldn't really look at it. I didn't want to see. I went the nurses to like change the flange and everything. I didn't want to deal with it, but very quickly you get over that. Like they just changed it all now, but it's also temporary. So I go in January to kind of get my surgery checked out to see what's happening and whether or not we're able to reverse this. Well, not whether we can, but just when we're able to do it. But anyway, yeah, so my surgery was all done and over with. And the good thing is that they got all of the cancer out. So all their pathology came back cancer-free, I guess. Or I don't know how that works, but they said that they got all the cancer. And so the thing that I was most excited about is that at the beginning of all this, when they were talking about my treatments, they initially expected me to go in for 25 treatments of radiation on top of the chemo, on top of the surgeries. But since the surgery, the way their scans and everything looked, they said, I don't need to do radiation, which, oh my God, I am so happy, because that would have been every day for a month or 25 days in a row. Well, Monday to Friday. So that would just be a lot of driving back and forth to Barrie. I've heard so many negative things about radiation, especially being down in like your rectum. Like there's just a lot of side effects and a lot of like things that can happen from all that radiation, like long-term effects as well. But thankfully I didn't have to do any of that. So yeah, so everything everything went very well, actually. The nurses or the surgeons came in and they told me that, you know, it went better than expected. So again, I'm not lucky to have got cancer, but I feel very lucky that everything went so well. Um, but yeah, so my ileostomy, I might make a separate video just talking about that specifically. But like, I mean, I think I've shown you before, like, it's just this wonderful bag that collects all my poop. Well, it's not really poop yet. It's right out of your intestines. So your waste turns into poop in your colon. So this is more just like whatever I've eaten blended up in a blender. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's very liquidy a lot of the times, which is not good. If it's always liquid, it just means it's like basically diarrhea. But anyway, yeah. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the ileostomy. If it's something that you're interested in, if you're getting one or you have one or you're new to one, whatever, like let me know in the comments and I'll make a video specifically talking about that. I actually thought about doing a video of me like changing it and cleaning it all out and everything. Not in a gross way. I mean anyway, if that's something you're interested in, learning more about what it's like having an ostomy bag, I will make one. So I think I'm gonna leave this video here. So yeah, the next video will be about going back on chemo because my treatment was 12 cycles of chemo and we paused at 7 for surgery. And when I went back on chemo after the surgery, this would be about, it was about 6 weeks after my surgery that I went back into chemo. Very different experience from the first 7 treatments. I was starting to, let's just say my body was no longer interested in doing chemo. So yeah, so I'm going to talk about that in my next video. So if you're still watching, or if you've been watching since the very first video, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, leave some comments below, like the video, subscribe if you've made it this far. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, guys.